this is Faolans Heart, and welcome to my top 5 games of 2024. Honestly, it's been a pretty slow year this year, not that great for video games, especially if you're kind of burned out of Souls-likes. Even on this top 5 list, it's only really the last 2 I would consider truly spectacular. What 2024 did give us, however, in spades, is some stunning examples of everything wrong with the gaming industry. Such as the incredible success of Concord, a game so unbelievably uninspired and corporate that upon its launch, it only really lasted a few days before being shut down due to its complete lack of interest. Dustborn, a full-on propaganda game that is so lacking in self-awareness that neither the characters nor the writers at any point took themselves back a little bit and thought to ask themselves,
are we the baddies?
She's literally taking control of her mind at this point.
You can't silence all of us. We have a right.
Yes, silent the dissent.
What did you do to me?
Your mind was infected with disinformation.
Re-education! Nice!
Of course. Liar. She's messing with my mind again. She literally was messing with her mind.
Yep.
Like, she'll do the same to all of you if you don't stop her.
But she just tried. She just did that. She just did that. She actually did just try to do that and try to sow discord into a crowd.
And then there was Veilguard. Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite games of all time, but honestly, every single game post-Origins has been worse than the last. But even Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition at least had some good points. I can sit here and rave and rant about just how much I like certain parts of those games. But Veilguard? Oy.
While Tash is pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties, I was so proud.
Oh,
Ah, shit. They're still holding it, sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay.
a barv.
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune, from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crews, not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a Barv. Oh, there we go.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tash's back.
Oh, Tash isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours.
Huh.
Bastard looked better than I did in a dress or pants. And out of them, too.
Any reason you can't just apologise?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know. But pulling a barv, you sweat a little. Makes you think about it a little more. Shows the other person you mean it.
What if they mean it when they say they're sorry, though?
And that's the other reason. Some people mess up and get all dramatic. They make it about them.
I've been saying for years that Dreadwolf was going to be bad. Go back to my stream series, you'll see it in action. Solus is incredible. And he has so much potential to be the best villain in the series. He has so much potential to be the best villain in BioWare history. Because there's so much building on him. He alone makes Dreadwolf, Dragon Age 4 Dreadwolf, exciting. We'll see if it ends up being good. But, yeah, hopefully it does. I really, really hope Dreadwolf ends up being good, if it ever sees the light of day. But, much like the next Elder Scrolls game, I have very little faith that it will be much of anything. I think it's going to be an absolute fucking disaster because of history. But, there's a lot of potential there. But mother of Christ, I had no idea just how absolutely god-fucking awful Pixar's How to Train Your Non-Binary, childishly written, incredibly restrictive from an RPG perspective, like absolute trash it would end up being. And while I'm sure you've all seen those 2 clips that have been spattered around everywhere,
So I'm non-binary.
It's not just the gender stuff. One character's entire personality is that they like coffee. They're obsessed with coffee. Coffee this, coffee that. I love coffee. I've got a black one right here. And I'm specifically going to say that it's black because I'm a twat like that. And I get some of my self-worth out of drinking black coffee. Like many other black coffee drinkers.
And it's too scared to ever be truly confronting or dark for fear that it might make the audience uncomfortable. Every interaction between the companions feels like HR is in the room, and every interaction led by the main character, Rook, sounds like he's addressing an under-12 soccer team before a semi-final, or teaching toddlers how to properly share toys.
The characters talk like children. They're written like children, and they treat you like you're, quite frankly, a few nails away from a goddamn lobotomy. You know, the game is an insult. It's an insult to the people it's claiming to speak on behalf of. It's an insult to fans of the Dragon Age series. It's an insult to video game development in general. And it's an insult to every single sucker who bought this fucking game. If you like this game, legitimately, why?
Deep breaths.
Sorry.
Let's get that Pixar mom body, Aquaman.
This just isn't Dragon Age. Doesn't sound like Dragon Age, doesn't feel like Dragon Age, doesn't look like Dragon Age.
I'm not going to insult you. I have no idea how someone could like this. And if you do you watch Dora the Explorer as a fully grown adult and enjoy that as well? Because I know there are a lot of people that like kid shows. I myself like Friendship is Magic, you know. Occasionally a good kid show will come around and people will be like, oh, that's a kid show, you shouldn't like that as an adult. But actually it's quite good. Bluey's the new one of those. I've never watched that. Because that's what this game feels like. It feels like it was written for, quite frankly, mentally handicapped newborns. And if you go back to Origins and say, I don't know, play a city elf origin story, you will see the complete and utter tonal shift that has happened between these games. Origins was a dark, gritty game with serious story, in-depth characters, and a brilliant world building. And Inquisition is a game where nobody can be mean to anyone ever. Everyone's positive and supportive all the time. And the characters talk and are written like children. It is a completely different game. It is not a Dragon Age game. None of the DNA of Dragon Age has been pulled over. You know, honestly, the Veil God legitimately should be remembered along the same lines as E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Ride to Hell Retribution as one of the worst games ever made. Say what you want about Dustborn, like, I'm actually curious to play Dustborn because they did what many of us wanted. They made their own thing. I'm not going to shit over that. There was design in Dustborn. There was a goal in Dustborn. Yeah, we can take the piss over the politics, but Dustborn does not look that bad. Veil God is fucking abysmal. It is a terrible... The only positive thing I can say about Veil God is some of the environment design is fucking gorgeous, and the hair on the characters, some of the best in video game history. And if that's the only positive about your game, you fucking failed. Stop designing video games and design screensavers instead, because that's what you're good at. Anyway, I don't usually talk about the bad games this much, but Veil God in particular, especially since Origins is one of my all-time favorite games, that needed to be documented, because that really was one of the standouts of the year for the complete opposite reason of these videos. Let's get on to talking about some good games.
Today, we show the Grey Wardens that we remember and honor their sacrifice. For Ferelden!
For the Grey Wardens! Dragon's Dogma 2. I had a lot of fun with Dragon's Dogma 2. The combat is still fantastic, absolutely addictive. The character creator is, again, one of the greatest we've ever experienced in video games. They did this last time as well, and they've improved upon it even more so in Dragon's Dogma 2. I love the character creator in this game. The new Beast Race, speaking of character creator, is fucking awesome, right up my alley. I just wish they had tails. The pawn system is improved, and I like the Dragon Blight system, which I know a lot of people hated and they have to tune down, but I really like that concept. It makes you focus on your pawn and really pay attention to your surrounding, which is kind of what you need to do in this game. It's part of the immersive feel of it. It all plays into itself. Generally speaking, the quest system and the game in general is a lot less cryptic than the first one, meaning you're gonna miss a lot less than you would in the first game. And yeah, I fucking loved it. It was great. I even had a few all-nighters playing this game, because once you get yourself into that flow, that mindset of like going from city to city and traveling and really, you know, immersing yourself in the concept of travel with your little group, which again, a lot of people hate, but you need that mentality with this game because it's all about travel and going from A to B. And when the night comes, the game gets a lot more dangerous because you can't see where you're going properly, and that's when the creatures such as the Dullahan and a Necromancer will pop up among a bunch of different creatures. Necromancer, for example, I remember running into this on my way from one country to the next within the game, and that thing caused havoc because it just kept raising. It didn't matter how many things I took down, it just kept raising them again. I ran into an ogre at one point and I killed it, and then it raised the ogre, and the ogre came after me as well. And trying to get to the Necromancer beyond the horde of undead was really difficult. In the end, I had to run. I couldn't live. My pawns had died, my hires had died, and I just had to run. And that by far was one of the most memorable parts of the game, because that right there, that is a Necromancer fight. So many video games fuck up Necromancers. That is the power of a Necromancer, that right there. That's what it should feel like. This hopeless fight against an endlessly growing, ever-raising army. I went back much later to get my revenge on the thing, and it felt fucking satisfying. And that is Dragon's Dogma. This slow progression as you travel from one area to the other, knowing that every bit of travel could spell a lot of danger, and you might die. And if you do die, right back to the save point again, the last time you rested. It really gets you into this state of like immersion. You have to pay attention. You have to make sure. It's the same thing with the Souls series. Why the original Dark Souls games, before they became more action hacky slashy, it was all about patience and being aware of your surrounding and really immersing yourself in this world, and it nails it. And as a result, I wasted hours upon hours of my time, you know, just deep into this game. Can you tell I've gone up script because I'm just passionate about this? It was really freaking good. But Dragon's Dogma 2 isn't perfect. In fact, I think the original is better. Especially if we're considering the Dark Arisen version. For one, the classes are a hell of a lot more restrictive with gear, and it makes finding new gear just less exciting because chances are it's going to be for a class you're not using, and it will only be for a class that you'll use if you want to level it up quickly. The gear is just not as rewarding in this one as a result, which impacts exploration because that's what you're going to explore for. On top of that, the end game, I liked it at first, but upon completing it, my basic reaction was, wait, that's it? The original Dragon's Dogma had an amazing endgame where the world just completely changed, and then there was this big dive down this pit, this dungeon with multiple layers that you couldn't do it all in one. And I hated that at first just because jumping down, you had to make sure you landed in the right place, and if you fucked up, you'd have to do a whole run and then come back again. I really didn't like that. But In retrospect, hell of a lot better than what we get at the moment, which is good, but there's basically nothing to it, especially if you're good enough at the game and strong enough at that point in order to tackle what it throws at you. You can do the whole thing in one. It's really designed for you to fail, do a new game plus, and come back for more, but I did it in one. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Especially if you consider the end game of the Dark Arisen version, which gives you a whole heap of new shit, as well as the, you know, the new tower. And this just feels really, really bare bones as a result. Speaking of bare bones, quite a few of the older fights, such as the Hydra, don't return. There's a few old monsters from the original game that just don't come back. The Hydra seems to be replaced, but with the Medusa, or the Gorgon, I forget which one they call it, which is only found in one specific area, and you just go back to it after a few days if you want to fight it again. It's not as good. Now, I know the Hydra was only found in like 2 specific places as well, but the Hydra just felt more epic than the Gorgon, the Medusa. Again, I forgot what one they called it. It falters in a few ways. The biggest, however, is Dragon's Dogma 1 does this too, but Dragon's Dogma 2 really builds this plot. It really builds this political intrigue plot, and then they send you into another country to continue it, and you're doing it, and then boom, it's endgame. Fight the dragon. It comes out of nowhere. At one point, the story just gets completely dropped, and it's time to end the game. That's it. Dragon's Dogma 1 does this as well, but the steps feel more impactful in 1. I still remember, like, meeting that French warrior, running into the short stack cultist, going underground to, you know, to go undercover for the cultists, and like ending up surrounded by these hyper realistic looking fucking zombies. There's so many parts. I've not played Dragon's Dogma 1 in a while, but there's so many parts of that I remember. Going up the tower to the Griffin. But this game, I don't remember much of it, unfortunately. There's not many memorable moments. There's not many memorable characters. About the only one I remember is the elf sister in the village, because I fed her a bunch of gift stuff to try and make her like my chosen one at the end, and it turned out it was just somebody I worked with for a little bit. Much like the first one, people are gonna get the special someone at the end who is probably just gonna be a fucking merchant you visited a lot or something like that, which is funny. But Dragon's Dogma 2 ultimately just feels like an expansion to 1, or like an weird like side grade to 1. In some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse. And ultimately speaking, I think if I want to play Dragon's Dogma again, I'm gonna play Dark Arisen. Because for as great as Dragon's Dogma 2 is, some of the best combat in video games, really unique, are like really fun to explore. And quite frankly, this one is better to explore than the original, because it's a little bit more linear, so the travel is less annoying. You're spider webbing less, and you're more than back and forth. And whether or not you prefer that is up to you. But overall, I think Dragon's Dogma 1, especially the Dark Arisen version, it's just a superior game. Not by a great deal, but it is. That being said, I still had a lot of fun with 2, which is why it's here.
In a realm of fantasy and fate, you've existed before. As a chosen hero bestowed with immense power, a nefarious wielder of great magic, a conqueror of monsters. Now is the time to take your place among the worthy. Forge bonds. Gather allies. Fulfill your destiny. Go reason. Follow thy heart to seek the truth.
Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions. This entry is less of a game and more of an app. Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions is all about chilling out in a room decorated to your tastes with your own little avatar and listening to music and ambient sounds with specific combinations attracting these little cute spirit creatures that can come out and hang out with you. Once you find them, you unlock them, and they can chill out with you. Personal favourite of mine being the spider made entirely out of wool, or the axolotl pot candle thing. They're very, very cute, and they're quite varied. As the name suggests, it is mostly lo-fi. You have like a few pre-installed playlists that you can choose. But if, like me, you find listening to bands like System of a Down a lot more relaxing, then it does have an inbuilt YouTube search engine, so you can just search the kind of music you want to listen to and chill out to. It does have a built-in study timer, as well as a journal and to-do list, some of which you will want to use in order to gain experience, to unlock the currency, to buy like various skins for your new little creature pals, as well as outfit stuff for your avatar and decorations for your room. But I found myself not really using it all that much. It did, however, basically live entirely on my second monitor every morning and quite often during the night, because relaxing in the morning with a cup of coffee while my avatar drinks a cup of coffee or has a cup of coffee on their desk, playing some video games while my avatar plays some video games, same with their little companion, listening to a YouTube video in the background, or listening to chill music whilst doing a bit of gaming every morning, I find to be an incredibly like just chill way of starting the day. Also doing a similar thing later on at night while I'm relaxing before going to bed. It was a mainstay on my second monitor. Personally speaking, I tended to use the sounds of rain and wind and thunder. But there's a variety of things you can choose from like the sound of a crackling fire, to white noise, to wind, to birds chirping and insects chirping at night. There's all sorts, like keyboard typing and so on and so forth. It is the perfect little hub for you to just chill out and relax in, and the environmental design is lovely. I love it. They've added more stuff with the Halloween updates, which I loved. A lot of like gothy entries, fantastic. And very, very recently, as of a day or so ago, as of recording this, they added a Christmas update as well, which introduced a new playlist, a new friend, and a bunch of other stuff as well. So next year, because of the success of this game, they're adding a kitchen as well. So we're getting a new goddamn room. We're getting a full-on expansion. Don't know how much it's going to be, but I will be buying it. The game is only £10. So if this is something you're interested in, yeah, get it. It's super cheap for what it is. You can get, you can get a lot less with that money. It's super cheap for what it is, and it's something I do recommend anyone who gets something out of that kind of like ambient little app pick up and check out, because yeah, it's a really, really, really chill way to start your day or to end your day. Subverse. From something wholesome to something degenerate. I hope my family aren't watching this video. Let's face it, non-Japanese adult games tend to be pretty crap. But they can be great. Pretty much everyone loved the Honey Pop games. While the Japanese adult game market is just part of the regular game market, in other countries this isn't the case. They're pretty much entirely independently made, and because the nature of them are looked down on, resulting to them only really being developed through backing websites such as Patreon and so on and so forth, which have an increasing amount of restrictions on top of them. As a result, they tend to get stuck in development hell and don't really ever come out and eventually just get dropped. There are a few good ones out there, because it really is a shame, because the writing in many of these adult games are actually surprisingly really good. A regular-ass porno video, this is not. There are, believe it or not, a lot of people out there that want a bigger budget adult game. The market is there, hungry and starving, which is why it was no surprise that Subverse had a fucking incredibly successful Kickstarter. But it took a few years to finish, way over the estimate. And for a while there, it was looking like it was doomed to the same usual fate of Western-developed adult games. Which is why it was very surprising when it finally launched fully this year. Overall, the actual gameplay isn't really anything special. Some bullet hell space shoot 'em up and some basic grid-based combat, and that's kind of about it. But the real draw are the waifus, comedic writing, adult content, and some pretty goddamn good cutscenes for this kind of genre.
If you're calling about the mission, I'm happy to report it was a smashing success.
Now that you've finished with your dirty little team-building exercise, I've got our mutual friend on the line to discuss why we're all here. They don't like to be kept waiting either.
Great. Hopefully they can make sense of the overall plot so we can give this game a proper go, eh?
And that's exactly why we're here. The only thing that's going to stop them is one hell of a plan, and a team just crazy and skilled enough to pull it off.
So, Captain, any plans this weekend? How do you feel about helping us overthrow the intergalactic government?
Overthrow the Imperium. You guys are fucking... You guys are fucking serious?
Now is the time, Captain. I was able to convince Empress Casadora to spare your species, but there are many others that have not been so lucky.
Prodigium has become a graveyard of protesters, and Casadora's reign may have recently ended, but she's chosen Celestina as her successor.
Celestina is still young and naive. We cannot risk letting Casadora influence her to lead Prodigium into another 1,000 years of terror.
It's up to us. The authoritarian shit show is this close to hitting the fan, Captain. This may be our last chance.
Yeah, Juice. All right. How do you plan to pull it off?
Ah, I'm glad you asked, Captain. As fate would have it, I've recently gained control of a rather large Imperium slush fund. I'll be diverting as much of it as possible into this operation of ours. It'll be glorious watching them finance their own destruction. Fortune is one of the top black bag operatives in the galaxy, and she has never let me down. She will be the brains, and you will be my anally applied fist of wanton destruction.
We have two objectives. First, we're going to recruit a diverse team of vicious, powerful, and sexy lady rebels to wear the Dominus and serve as your commanders. Second, you will lead them on missions throughout the 5 sectors to destabilize the Imperium to its tipping point, and that's when we strike.
We are going to make an army, Captain. That's why I'm here, to breed a legion of manticores capable of revolution. Once they're ready, we'll be perfectly positioned to take over.
So what you're saying is you want me to wage a vicious guerrilla warfare rebellion against the most powerful single entity of domination in the entire known galaxy, and I'm gonna do it by fighting them with a team of smoking hot outlaw warrior Sheilas and an army of horrific monstrous bioweapons?
I take it you're in.
Fuck yes, I'm in! This is fucking metal!
That's good news. If you weren't, we were just going to have to kill you.
If it were up to me, we'd still find a way to do that.
Which the trailer I'm going to show you doesn't quite do justice, as it was an early access launch trailer, because the new trailer that they released for the final patch is more of a patch trailer and doesn't quite showcase what the game is like, more so just the updates. On top of that, it's a bit too spicy for this video. Could Subverse have been better? Yeah, it could have been. But I'm pretty happy with what we eventually got. There's a really good game here, and you can see the improvements in the full launch from like the early access version. It's a good game here. Very, very funny. Very, very funny. Very well animated for a studio that has, quite frankly, never made a video game before. They are a studio that is pretty much has a history of making monster fucker CGI adult videos, not video games. So this actually turned out quite well considering their complete lack of experience. The voice acting is not bad either. It does seem like everyone involved in this had fun making it. I hope that's the case. And hopefully they've learned enough from this that if we do get more from them in the future, it'll go a lot smoother. Really, it's here because this is something that people should take note of. There's a big market here, and adult games don't have to be terrible. They can be good. They, believe it or not, a lot of them out there have really good writing, as I've said. And hopefully Subverse will help people take these things a little bit more seriously, maybe introduce a few more seasoned people into making something like this through, I don't know, Kickstarter, if Kickstarter allows it. I don't know. There's some amazing YouTubers out there, like Sex Positive Gaming, for example, that covers these kind of things, and you would be surprised by how decent a lot of these games can be. The only major problem is they kind of get stuck in development hell for a long time. So if this was taken more seriously, we could have a better market, much like the Japanese market for this kind of thing. Because, let's face it, this is a video game. You're not just sitting there knocking one out and then moving on with your life. You're getting invested in it. So it's like watching Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones has sex scenes. Does that mean you're sat there knocking one out? No, you're invested. The sexual part of it is just part of the experience. And if you don't like it, well, you don't play games like this. This is why I find games like Stellar Blade with a lot of titillation to be kind of pointless, because if I wanted to play a game with sexy titillation, I'm just going to play a porn game, because believe it or not, good ones do actually exist. And Subverse is a pretty decent one. Not as good as what we could have got, but pretty decent.
Scanning. Anomaly found.
That can't be good.
It was nice knowing you, Captain.
This is the army that will blaze our path to redemption. If you engage, I will be forced to destroy your entire fleet. I'm going to give you one chance to surrender. Sincerely, General Elizabeth Blythe, the true heir of Earth's legacy. P.S. In case I didn't make this perfectly clear, get fucked.
Good as gold. I fly, you shoot. Let's show these Provo cunts a good time.
You are officially ready to start some shit.
How dare you do that to my babies?
I offer my royal vow that I will not kill you.
As you can see, this is the kind of girl we want on our team.
Get into formation, you sons of bitches!
Today, Captain, is about destiny!
I am the apex predator.
Get fucked, cunt!
We're gonna need a whole lot more than that to take on the Imperium.
So, I take it you like what we've done with the place?
Do you have any idea how dangerous this is?
What in the history of fuck are those things?
If you thought things were hard before, I'm sorry to say they're only going to get worse.
Wake the fuck up, Captain. We have a galaxy to burn.
No, seriously, get up. The bloody game's about to launch.
Captain, are you hungover again?
I think you're gonna have to carry me for a bit.
Zenless Zone Zero. Zenless Zone Zero. That will never stop being a fun name to say. Hoyo got me good with this one. Zenless is a post-apocalyptic, high-tech society that somehow feels incredibly modern. The hub areas have that same, or similar chill vibe to many of these hubs of the Persona series, which is high praise. Many of the characters, even the more tropey ones, feel like you could chill with them. And you can. One of my favorite features of Zenless is this very Persona-light social link system in which you can often get to know these characters that you've unlocked better than you would through the story, allowing more depth in the writing and so on and so forth. I actually wish Star Rail had something like this because it's way better than the character quests that you get in that series. Zenless nails characters more than Star Rail does in terms of characterization, because it really allows you to get to know them on a more personal level than Star Rail does. Star Rail is all about the grand opera, like the grand drama with a few silly quirky bits thrown in between, but Zenless feels a lot more grounded, and as a result I've become far more attached to the characters in Zenless in a short amount of time than I have in Star Rail, with only really one or two I really feel strongly about. The bulk of the gameplay is easy to learn, simple action combat with a decent amount of impact feedback depending on the character you're playing, and overall a lot of hidden depth if you want to get into it. How you put work into this one. The cutscenes feel bouncy, like animation dripping with personality, like an old cartoon.
I was thinking, since we have the upper hand, we might as well call it a day. But seeing you like this really brings out my predatory instincts.
So soft. So warm.
Are you crazy?
Huh? Don't all kitties love being warm and toasty?
And the hub areas are filled with, a lot of little details that many companies just wouldn't bother with. For example, go around looking at NPCs and checking the phones they're looking at, right? There'll be NPCs looking at mobile phones. There'll be a variety of different screens, from some of them playing video games, some of them shopping for shoes, browsing social media, or a website that looks remarkably like Spotify. Tiny little details like that I really enjoy and helps me get into the world. It's one of the reasons why when they do release a new hub area, one of the first things I do is have a quick look around and see what little hidden things I can find, what side alley I can go down. It's really good, and they do promote that to some way with a lot of the little side objectives and little things you can find. It's good. The hub areas are gorgeous. I love just walking around them. They have a very nostalgic feel to them as well. It feels like I'm playing an old GameCube game, but a much prettier looking old GameCube game. It's got a very nostalgic vibe to it. The whole hub area of the game, it all just feels quite grounded for its sci-fi nature. It's very, very grounded. It's overall their most polished game to date. It really is. It's a gorgeous game. Considering how big Hoyo is, they don't really need to put in this much work, but they do, and it's appreciated. Zenless is a beautiful game in multiple ways, from the voice acting to the characters to the animations. The UI, however, could use a bit of work. It's not as smooth as Star Rail's, and on top of that, due to the nature of the game, it's not a fun game to play on mobile. Don't play this on mobile. It's an absolute chore. Play it on PC with a controller. You'll thank me for it. It is technically a mobile game, but it feels a lot better with a controller in hand playing it on the computer. Don't fuck with this on mobile. Star Rail remains the only good proper video game that I've ever played on a mobile, designed for mobile, right? Zenless is not that. And while I absolutely adore the characterization of many of these characters, like Jane Doe is probably my favorite character Hayao has ever made.
Jane, what are you doing? You breaking the rules now, too?
No way, boss. Just, didn't you say, when the time's right, I can become a bodyguard?
Yeah, so what?
We mountain lions are fierce and unbeatable. Not even those pubsec idiots can stop us. It'd be a waste to get rid of him like this, don't you think?
What's your point?
With him here, I think the time has come. Let me fight in front of the gang to prove myself and earn a shot at promotion. I propose a duel in the Lion's Den.
Hold it, Jane! Don't think you're all that! Only the boss calls the shots!
Gentlemen, are you still in the dark? About the rumors on the streets? They say that in front of PubSec, mountain lions are just little scaredy cats. Our brothers caught, business stolen, operations ruined, territory shrinking. And what did we do in response? We ran. We hid. Scattered like mice, with our heads down. Lions are creatures that hold honor above all. And this PubSec officer is the perfect opportunity to prove ours. Let this duel make it clear to all other gangs. We are real lions. And not some scaredy cats.
Boss, I think Jane actually has a point! Damn right, boss! How long have we been pushed around? Lions! We're mountain lions! Go show them, Jane! We support you! Yeah. We're the strongest gang!
I love her. She's like my #1 fucking waifu. And I love the biker gang, Sons of Clayton. I love them. Everything about them is right up my alley. The character design itself, I feel, is lacking. It almost seems like it's illegal to have a female character that is in anything but a skirt or short shorts. Like, if they are in pants, it's because they're wearing armor, you know? And even just designing male characters in general feels almost illegal. They can get away with one every now and again. The marketing is also very first trappy, which one of the things I liked about Star Rail is they avoided a lot of the first trappiness of a lot of their other games, but they really are getting into it in Zenless, and it's a bit awkward. Their story, though, is overall pretty good. There's a lot of different places they can take this to, and due to the nature of this game being a little bit more grounded, at least so far, I am actually more interested in the story in Zenless than I am in Star Rail. I like Star Rail when it comes to the different cultures and individuals, but when it goes into the gods and they start speaking about all this different terminology and so on and so forth, I stop caring. I find the game gets a bit up its own arse a lot of the time when it comes to that kind of thing. It's very, very Final Fantasy. I love Star Rail. I've not suddenly started to hate it because this game comes out, Star Rail, and I'm still loving, outside of the last patch, which was the worst patch in the fucking game. Just pure skibbity toilet style brain rot. But I still love Star Rail. But I just find that Zenless is far more grounded, which is why it's actually reached far higher in this year's list than Star Rail did last time. I love it. I love it. I'm loving every second of it. I'm loving a lot of the characters. Again, especially the Sons of Clayton, but the recent patch we've just got with this special unit was quite good. I figured out the plot twist pretty much instantly, but the characters are really, really good. Ironically, except the one you play with. I find her very I find her very basic. She's just really good at what she does, and that's kind of it. She doesn't feel like she has much of a personality, but the group around her, the little Oni girl Sukako, the lazy dude with like the bow and the dual blades, and then like the fox girl with the katana, they're all awesome. I love all three of those. The main character you play as, she seems a little bit dull, to be honest. But the story, yeah, really good. Music, nothing really to write home about. I think that's one of the weaker points of the game. That's one of the stronger points of Star Rail. But Zenless, I've not really had a wowzer moment with the music at all in Zenless, and most of the time I think it's probably better just to mute it and put your own music on. A lot of the fights could actually be a lot better with more pumpy, hard-hitting music, and they did kind of drop the ball with the Sons of Clayton with that as well. They're biker gangs. Give them some biker gang style music, some heavy metal or something like that. You know, the closest they got were with one of the cutscenes, which was fucking fantastic. But outside of that, no, like the music is a bit of a weak point. But I fucking love Zenless, which is why it's so high on this list. And one of only 2 games this year I think was truly spectacular. Dear guest from a world I shall never know, in your eyes, I know our journey was ultimately a fiction. However, I hope your memories of this fantastical adventure burn as bright in your reality. I hope the promise of our world echoes in you. With all my heart, I hope that fantasy gives you strength. Game of the Year. Metaphor. Rifantasio. So, Metaphor. Rifantasio. Another fun name to say. I have wrote a script for this year's top 5, and what I've done this year is I've used it as kind of cliff notes and gone on my own little thing out off script, just so things seem to flow a little bit more naturally. And I've done that just so I sound less stunted, because I'm not good at reading off scripts, and my memory is terrible. If I tried to memorize all this, it's like, this video would take years to make. I'm terrible at that kind of thing. So I have wrote a script, but I've kept it very loose just to remember like key points. However, for this bit, I'm going to read it verbatim, because this was the first bit of the script I wrote this year, and I wrote it as I was playing, because about midway through playing this game, I knew it was going to be my game of the year. I knew it right away. It was so fucking strong. I knew it was going to be my game of the year. And as such, I wrote my thoughts, and then basically it went through a few different drafts until I finished the game, in which it went through its final draft. I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, because Metaphor is a heavy story-based game. The story is its strong point. So, reading from the script verbatim. Apologies if this sounds stunted. Metaphor Refantasio is Atlus's magnum opus, and I truly mean that. On a technical level, I feel like all the best parts of the Persona series have been refined from bloat and tedium and used to make this game. An engaging job system, much like the Bravely Default series, where each leveled archetype can in turn empower the next with passives and unlock skills, as well as an absolutely stunning UI that feels like the endpoint of the past Persona color theory entries. Seriously, Metaphor feels like everything Atlus has learned over the many years of making like the Megaten games and the Persona series and so on and so forth put into one. It feels like their magnum opus. But what truly places this game so high for me is its writing. It's proof that politics and social issues can, in fact, add to the game, not remove from it and become a distraction. They just need to be handled properly. It is a story about the anxieties of life that make us all too human. Prejudice, racism, classism, corruption of power like nobility, religion, wealth, and misguided ideals. But also a story of unity, diversity, inner strength, and utopian ideas of the possible good mankind is capable of achieving, should they strive for it, and should they have allies along with them. A self-aware game that tells us that fantasy is not just pointless distraction, but something that gives us hope, inspires us, and provides safe haven when the real world seems too dire to face. So long as we don't remain within, for that only leads to self-destruction. The characters are masterfully written, making you care deeply for some and utterly despise others. There are no duds here, and each and every one of them deliver their lines with beautiful voice acting in which I could feel the emotion. And due to such emotional, impactful writing, it left me in tears multiple times throughout the journey. In fact, at one point, I recorded myself because I wanted to add one of those raw moments to this video. So here we go. Look at the fucking state of me. I'm busy playing Metaphor. I'm not showing you what part I am because spoilers. But I'm adding this bit to the Game of the Year video purely as proof that when I say this game had me in fucking tears, I really goddamn mean it. This is... There's a reason why it's my Game of the Year. This game has got me like this a few times. It hits hard. Really, really fucking hard. Like, holy shit, dude. God, I wish I could talk about it without spoiling so much of it, but mother of Christ, this game hits hard. Oh, I have just been bawling like you wouldn't fucking believe. It's this mixture of just heavy-hitting emotion, and you feel so sorry for these motherfuckers. Like, they're in such a helpless situation. They face nothing but discrimination their whole ass fucking lives. They try to make it better, and then finally, when they do the right goddamn thing, they suffer for it, and it's just... And then there's that one glimmer of hope, and it just hits like you wouldn't fucking believe. Like, I love Persona. I love Persona like 3, 4, 5, especially 4. And one of the reasons why I love these games, especially 4, is because these games have always had amazingly impactful characters that just seem to hit at your core. But this game, this is their best work. It might just be because it's fantasy and I'm a big fantasy guy, but this is their best work. I've cried playing Persona games before. I've really cared about Persona characters before. But I have never been hit this emotionally on repeat by an Atlus game in general before. I'm fucking ugly crying. It's so good. It is such a fucking good game. And that is why it is my Game of the Year. without question. It's got one of the best stories I've ever experienced in a video game, with an incredible roster of characters. I don't think I've played a video game before with a complete roster of characters in which I love and care about every single one of them. There's usually one or two duds that I don't care that much about, but I care about every single one of these characters. And nearly all the social links are also heavy-hitting. The little girl, for example, I don't like kids in real life. I can just about stand them. But that little girl, oh my god, they do such a good job writing her in such a believable way. The voice actor is really, really good. And that girl triggers my must protect genes. She is such an innocent little sweetheart. But I'm not going to spoil any characters. I've probably given away too much, but obviously no one's going to know unless they play the game and they put pieces together. So, but yeah, wow, I've not even finished the game yet. I've just outright decided at this point that this is my game of the year. This is my game of the year. Like, there's no game that's going to beat this. Like, it's currently the 8th of November. So the game of the year video is coming pretty soon, upon recording this, right? So there's no game that's going to beat this. It's not happening. And even if there would be, I wouldn't have the time to play it through. I will finish this before the game of the year video, but the top 5, video. But yeah, it is so fucking good, so fucking good, and it might actually be my favorite Atlas game to this day. Like, my favorite Persona game, Shin Megami Tensei game, whatever way you want to put it. It's not Persona, but it's basically Persona. But yeah, it's I don't know what else to say. I don't want to ramble too much, but yeah, Metaphor Rifantasio is my game of the year. Mwah. I'm alright, don't worry. By the end of the game, I was left thinking about my own life and how to better it. To not give in to my anxieties that have plagued me for so much of my life. I've rarely been touched by a game on this level before. It's my #1 example of video games being art, and all that is why it's my game of the year. It is one of the best games I've ever played. On a writing level. Its basic gameplay is Persona, which if you're into Persona, you're going to love, and you're going to want to keep going back for more and more and more and more. The day-timed system, I usually hate being timed in video games. I hate it. But for some reason, the Persona series manages to nail it, in which it becomes an incredibly engaging part of the gameplay and doesn't feel overly restrictive. And unlike the Persona series, I at never point found the need to grind in order to push my way through the dungeons. I actually enjoyed the dungeons, and part of that is due to the aforementioned changes that they've made to the RPG kind of genre, removing a lot of the grind and the bloat. If you can take out a character really easily, and the game knows it, all you need to do is attack them in a very simple action combat style thing, which knocks them out instantly and gives you the experience and the items you would have otherwise obtained from them. Brilliant. That cuts out a lot of the animation from diving into a turn-based battle. Meaning that when you do enter a turn-based battle, it's because it's an actual fight that will provide at least some level of challenge. It is brilliant. It feels like their magnum opus, like everything they have learned for their history in one game. It is the closest thing to a perfect game I've ever played, which is a line I've said once or twice in this top 5 series so far. It's truly spectacular. I know JRPGs put a lot of people off because they can be incredibly anime, and I blame games like Final Fantasy for that, because anime can be quite fucking pretentious without earning it a lot of the time. But truly, this game has masterful writing. Masterful writing. It is one of the best written games I've ever played. Legitimately. It is really, really, really good, and I urge you to play it. Don't sleep on this one, especially if you like the Persona series. Do not sleep on this one. It is, without question, the game of the year. There is no competition whatsoever. It does not even come close.
The prince. If I haven't lost him, you too would abandon me. Is this the price of my failure, then? Of course. 'Tis only just that you be the one to send me to him now.
No! You have it wrong! The prince is alive!
Mission? Killing Luis to lift the prince's curse.
His Highness survived the attack, but the curse hanging over him was powerful and complex.
If we don't hurry and find a way to get close to Luis, we're sunk.
What have we got here? He's an elder!
The minority tribes face walls and barriers everywhere they look in society.
I've been reading, and I hope that someday we can make our kingdom like the place in this book.
A world with no need for that abstract dominion we know as magic. You carry a certain fantasy novel, yes? It was my hand that penned it.
Dreamers like you are always the first to die. You think he's one of Luis's men? The villagers plead to be spared, but I know better than to confront a human.
You left one survivor!
Certainly. It was the first village to be destroyed by the human menace.
I will show you truth! The truth of reality!
I suppose it's only a matter of time until Luis takes the throne.
Heed me, O kingless.
It can't be His Majesty.
But he was dead. Whosoever hath truly earned the greatest faith of the citizenry shall ascend to throne and crown by right of kings.
But now the throne's in anyone's reach, eh? Suppose the king's magic wasn't just a myth.
Let's enter this tournament for the throne.
What? Wait just a minute.
This could be just the excuse we need to get close to Luis.
A really bad man might be our king. Why?
The tragedy of the royal family is only the beginning. So, what would you say to an alliance?
We were with him, but we couldn't protect him. I'm sorry.
The man I fought beside was not so ruled by anger and malice.
Count Luis gave us a dream to fight for.
So, contestants, are you ready?
What? Blast, I say! Wait! Found your behave!
It'll crash! Whoa!
And there we have it, my top 5 games of 2024. Hope you've enjoyed. But before we go, I'm going to throw in some honorable mentions. First of all, Palworld. This is a game I actually had some sleepless nights with because I was playing it instead of fucking sleeping. I really enjoyed my time with Palworld. But the problem is that when I had my fill, I did all the game had to offer and I stopped playing. I stopped thinking about it. It went completely. And even when the inevitable Nintendo lawsuit popped up, with the throwing mechanics, ironically, and not with the designs, which, let's face it, some of these designs were blatant rip-offs. Blatant. Like, there's no question about it. And some of them were, like, copy and paste clone, like, mix and matched Frankenstein monsters versions of Pokemon with little bits from this Pokemon and little bits from that Pokemon. But that was not what the lawsuit was about. It was about the throwing mechanics. Weird. But, again, I suppose they had to target them some way. But honestly, I do not understand copyright law at all because it just feels so arbitrary a lot of the time. But there's a new update coming soon, like near the end of the year, around Christmas, I think. And it looks great. We've got new characters, new monsters, and all that kind of thing. I might end up going back to it. And probably enjoy it. And I think that's probably how I'm going to play that game. every few months when there's a big new patch brought out with a lot of new stuff, I'll go back to it, I'll catch up with everything I missed, I'll, you know, gather new mons and have a new team, and just enjoy the game again, and then completely stop, pop out my head again, and then go back again when I hear about it in a few months. I've followed this game for a while, long before most people know about it, because I've been following Gym Leader Ed's channel, which, holy shit, I did not realize I watched them that much. But he's become one of my favorite YouTube channels. I've watched him for a while, but with Pokemon kind of going downhill in recent years, the monster-taming genre has shot up beyond belief. And if you want so many good examples of great monster-taming games from a variety of genres, not all are Pokemon clones, many unique ones, Gym Leader Ed's the best place for that. Next we have two furry games, Atlas and Critter Cove. Critter Cove was gifted to me a little while ago, and I absolutely love it. I've only played a little bit of it so far, but once I've cleared out my schedule, it's going to be one I'm going to dive into fully. It's basically early access PC furry Animal Crossing. The character creator is really extensive, and I absolutely love it. You can come up with all different kinds of creatures that you want to play as. And yeah, it's essentially Animal Crossing. You move into this deserted island, you build it up, there's a rat Tom Nook-like kind of character, and it's fun, it's cozy, and I can see myself losing a lot of hours to it. The complete opposite of cozy, however, is Atlas. This game is a very nostalgic GameCube-era looking game with amazing combat. Apparently, it's been made by one person who used to make a lot of not safe for work furry art on Twitter until they realized no one was paying attention to it, so they made a game instead. And that game seems to be making waves. There's a niche community built up around it because the combat is really fucking good that even people who were a little disturbed about the furry elements in the game, which, to be honest, the fetish stuff in it, it's pretty obvious. The developer obviously has a type. But even so, the combat, really, really good. It is brutally hard, especially if you're soloing it like my antisocial ass. But it's so satisfying and rewarding. Like, the combat, it's just so zippy and responsive. And it doesn't matter what you're playing. Like, you can get into some hardcore parry slash, or because I'm playing as an archer, diving around the arena shooting. It's so much fun, and honestly, I recommend it. It's really, really cheap. It's like £10 at the moment, or something like that. The problem is, it's in early access, and there's not really a lot there. There is stuff there, but there's not a lot. But what is there is really, really fun, and I do think is worth £10. Especially with what will hopefully come in the future. But I'm nearing the end of the current content at the moment. There's still like a hard mode version of the first dungeon, and then there's the rest of the dungeon to get through. But I actually managed to solo quite a bit the other night and got through a really hard hurdle that I was struggling with because of the magic pigs and for a few other things. But yeah, it's just really good. The combat is really fucking good. I cannot overstate that enough. Like, my god, it's addictive and just really satisfying to play. And lastly, Path of Exile 2. I've been so hyped to play this game, especially the Druid. Oh my god, the Druid looks so fucking cool. I like Diablo 2 for one major reason, the Werewolf Druid. So the fact that they've added that kind of thing to this game, hype beyond belief. It looks so good. The way the bird just smashes its way through enemies, it looks so good. But my first love in Path of Exile 1 was the Witch. And I have been enjoying the Witch so fucking much. I love the new spirit system. It means that I'm not spamming F constantly to raise my horde of zombies, although I'm still doing that. Essentially, you have this like pool of resources called spirit, and you can use that to summon an ever-reviving list of undead that you can swap out to various times. So far, I've got skeletons, archer skeletons, mage skeletons, bombing skeletons, and I think that's it. But I've also got corpse ones, so I've got an army of zombies that I can spawn from corpses. I have a skeletal ribcage thing that I can spawn from corpses, and my wand currently has a thing where it can turn corpses into explosive devices. So I've got this constantly replenishing list of undead, and then when I kill things, I have even more undead, and when I've got more undead than I could possibly need, those corpses become fucking explosive devices. It's such a fun game. I love Witch. I loved Witch so much in the original, and I'm loving it so much more in this. And I do think it's why I've had a much easier time in this game than a lot of people. Because essentially, what I need to do is avoid the bad and keep my undead army flourishing, and that's it. They will whittle down the enemy without me even needing to fire a spell. You know, I'm going to put Contagion on the enemy, I'm going to activate the Poison Bomb on the enemy, and then I'm going to let my undead minions do their job. A lot of people have been complaining about the difficulty of Path of Exile 2, and I have died a fair bit against a few bosses. I recently killed the genie character, the old woman in like Act 2, I forget her name. That killed me a few times because I didn't clock onto the poison room mechanic. You have to find her, she's invisible, and if you don't do it fast enough, the whole room fills with poison and you die. But once I clocked that out, first try. As soon as I clocked that mechanic out, no problem. And I'm finding the game is just challenging enough. I'm dying a fair few times against a few fights, but once I work out the mechanics, I typically get it done within another run or two. It's fun. It's really, really fun. The only complaint I would have is the checkpoints. I'm not having much of a problem with it, but retrekking through the whole fucking map because it's reset again because you've been away for a few minutes, kind of annoying. Kind of annoying. There are big maps that you have to dedicate a lot of time to exploring thoroughly, and depending on what kind of character you're playing, you're not going to do that. So it's I can understand some of the complaints, but I think a lot of the difficulty complaints are kind of overblown because I'm not a highly skilled gamer. So if I can do it, I feel like anyone outside of people with like severe like motion difficulties, you know, like they can't move their fingers properly, they don't have a lot of motor functions. I think if I can do it, pretty much anyone outside of people with underlying medical conditions can, because I'm not that skilled. But no, I'm loving Path of Exile 2. I'm super hyped for the Druid that we'll eventually get. I don't know whether it will replace the Witch, because I'll really miss my summoning abilities, but you know what the great thing about Path of Exile is? I can probably still have my zombies. I can probably still have them. It's probably something I can do. Even if it's just one or two out there, it's probably something I might weaken my Druid a little bit by doing, but if I get a spur one of those orbs, pop it, throw it on the Druid. It's probably something I can do at some point. I might have to make a Witch at some point to reliably get one of those things. But yeah, it's something I can do, because you can mix and match. Right now in the Witch, I'm using some sorcerer spells to add fire damage, because I know later on down the line, I'm going to get a prestige class that will make me a fire damage dealing demon. That's what I'm aiming for. So, fire damage, better get used to it right now. Stop building my character up for it. It's so addictive, it's so good, it looks gorgeous, and yeah, it's fantastic, and I can't wait for the full release. Chances are it will be on my Game of the Year list next year because it's great, and I missed it last time. I found out about Path of Exile originally whilst watching Game of the Year lists. It was on Total Biscuits, the first time I had ever seen it, and I started playing after it. I'm like, wow, I wish I had played this before my Game of the Year list, because if I had, it would have been on that list. The original would have been on my top 5 that year if I had known about it. But I played it the year after. Incredible game. Honorable mentions out the way. What am I looking forward to next year? Well, I started playing Kingdom Come Deliverance this year. I've had it for a while. I bought it on sale. I started playing this year. And fuck is it good. Wow! Now, admittedly, when you start playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, you will not like it. I didn't. But I knew what was coming, so I stuck with it. The fact is that you are a peasant in this game, and the game makes sure that you know it, because you can do shit. Everything from lockpicking to swinging a sword to carrying shit to repairing shit, from picking up flowers, everything is difficult. Everything plays on you. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to repair your fucking shit, you have to make sure you have money for a lot of this stuff. And combat? Oh, you'll hate combat. Lockpicking? The most annoying lockpicking system in the history of video games. until you actually realize how it works, and then it's the best one. That's kind of the way this game is. The combat I was a little ready for because I spent a lot of hours playing Chivalry Medieval Warfare back in the day. Wow, that's been for a few years, but I fucking love that. I think I still have a really old video on my channel of me playing that in, like, potato vision. Lag power. Fuck off reacts. Plus, like, deactivation plus 2. Huzzah!
Oh, what the fuck?
I dedicate this kill to Sir Grady. Big fuck off the axe powers, you fail me! No! Off with my head, apparently. Oh god, it's rotating. What's going on? Oh, that's what happened. The king strikes again! He lands over the corpse of the defeated, grinning with his drunken smile, cheering for more blood! But Kingdom Come Deliverance has the habit of introducing systems that are really obtusely explained, really poorly explained, but once they click, you fucking love them. The lockpicking is the foremost in that. The tutorial on how you play it is terrible, but once you realize what you're supposed to do, it's a fucking fantastic system. My favorite lockpicking system. I love it. It's great. I actually enjoy doing it, unlike most lockpicking in video games. The pickpocketing, that one's taken me a little time. I'm finding it easier just to knock people out and then steal from them once they've been knocked out. Pickpocketing's kind of pointless once you realize you can do that. Of course, you know, it's more limited in that regard. But the game makes you feel like you're improving. You will notice your skill as a player improve along the lines as your skill as a character improve. Combat becomes easier. Your character will win in, like, the clashes more often. You'll put your enemy off guard more often. You'll get good hits in more often. Your dog will start to listen to you more. Your horse riding will be better. Sneaking around will be easier. You will see a slow improvement of your character and your own ability over time, and it is super satisfying. And because of the highly historically accurate setting and the way the game is made, it is so immersive. Incredibly immersive. You'll get used to sleeping at night or creeping around at night and following people around and watching their schedules if you're trying to, like, find someone in particular that might have something that you'll want. It is so goddamn immersive. Really fucking immersive. Once you get into the flow of Kingdom Come, there is nothing like it. And because of that, I am so excited for the new one. And apparently, your choices carry over. So I've got to play this new one before 2 comes out. And unlike this one, I'm not buying 2 on sale. Because Warhorse has really amused me recently. On Twitter, they dunked on Veilguard by saying, hey, look who's playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like, what, 3 or 4 years later compared to a brand new release? Huh? And admittedly, Warhorse Studios have had problems with these people in the past because their highly historically accurate focused game was bad because you couldn't play as a woman. Yeah, you want to play as a woman, you can't. You're not being the squire of some knight. Your gameplay is sat at home, working on the farm, cooking, and basically looking after the man in your life. That's your gameplay. Enjoy. Enjoy being a modern woman that doesn't have to do that and has the same freedoms, sometimes more, than the men in society. Congratulations. We don't live in that time period anymore. You have choice. But, no, it's really funny that they got shit because you couldn't play as a woman in their highly historically accurate game. The only complaint I have for Kingdom Come is there are no polearms. And polearms were kind of the shit. They're the best weapon type because spears, billhooks, halberds, all that kind of thing, they require far less training. Far less training than the sword. They're really cheap to make. And they're really useful. They keep you safe at a distance. This is why, historically, polearms were the most ubiquitous weapon. Not swords, like media would have you believe. Polearms. Really ubiquitous. But video games very rarely touch on them. One thing this game does do well are the gambesons, though. Armor is legit. not only will the fucking, like, color of your armor, like, not only will the weight of your armor affect your sneaking and how noticeable you are and how much noise you make, but if you're wearing bright colors, you're going to be more noticeable, which affects sneaking. That's genius! It means you're going to be carrying around several sets of armor at all times, because, or storing some in your home before going out and doing something specific, because you don't want to be carrying all that stuff on you, because wearing brightly colored armor, while it might look good, your chainmail and plate armor might be good for a battle. When you're sneaking around, it's gonna weigh on you, and it's gonna let people know that you're there. It's genius. It's brilliant. It's so... Oh. So I'm so excited for the new one coming up. I'm so excited. I've gone on about this way longer than I thought I would, but I am so excited for the new one because, wow, I wish I'd played this sooner. Kingdom Come Deliverance is so fucking good. It is so unique, and I am so glad that there are independent studios like Warhorse making niche games like this instead of whatever the fuck BioWare's doing. And to a lesser extent, Monster Hunter Wilds. God, it looks good. God, it looks good. But considering Capcom has gone full into the DLC and microtransactions and they no longer release complete Monster Hunter games and we have to wait months upon months upon months upon months for a full release version of the game to come out, at which point the DLC will add up to the cost of the game 4, 5, 6 times fucking over, and the balancing issues will be completely fucked because the game is not being designed as a complete game and instead a platform for updates and microtransactions. I can't be excited for it. It looks good, but because of the live service change of Monster Hunter from complete experiences to live service wait and see, then I can't be excited for it. I love Monster Hunter, man. I've loved it for years. But yeah, they're live service games now. They're live service games now, and that comes with more attention being put on making DLC and microtransactions than actually making the game good and balanced. It's just, here's more stuff. Consume, consumer. That's all it is now. So, for as great as Wilds looks, I don't have much faith in it being any good in terms of that. Which means a lot to me because, again, I've been playing these games for years and I remember what they used to be. So, I want to be excited for it, but logically I just can't. Anyway, the game rewards are out today, hence the clothes change in these sections. So I'm going to see what wins. I'm kind of hoping Bellatrio wins, because as much as I love Metaphor Fantasio, it's a JRPG. It's not winning Game of the Year. JRPGs are too niche. Most people are going to look at these characters and think, oh, children, and just completely disconnect from their soul from the rest of it. So the idea that Bellatrio will win will be fucking hilarious. The idea that a random-ass indie with no connection, as far as I'm aware, to, like, DEI or anything like that, correct me if I'm wrong, but, the idea that a game like that will win Game of the Year will be fucking hilarious. I also really want Veil God to win, the award in accessibility, because it's a game made for, you know, mentally handicapped babies. That would be funny. That would be so funny. But we'll see. I'm going to watch it tonight and we'll see. But that ends, outside maybe 1 or 2 clips of the Game Awards, we'll see, my video. I know it's been a long one. I know it's not as good and finely tuned and crafted as last year. I'm really sorry about that. But the year in general hasn't really been that good for video games. There's been a few, but not like last year. Last year was one of those years where there's too much good. Like, this year is the lull in between. Hopefully next year will be like 2023 in terms of game quality. We'll see. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching up until this point. Bye for now. Big thank you to Bros Clan YouTube for uploading this without all the bullshit and advertisements. That has saved me several hours from my life. I very much appreciate that. I really don't need to watch hours upon hours of just vapid trash and CGI trailers of basically the same shit over and over and over again. Thank you. Sincerely.
Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. The Game Award goes to Baldur's Gate 3.
Lorian continuing to take names and kick ass. You love to see it.
Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Metaphor Refantasio, and Neva. The Game Award goes to Metaphor Refantasio.
Alright, I really didn't expect that. I mean, the art is probably the most generic thing about the game, outside of the Hieronymus Bosch inspiration. But I'll take it. That's great. I didn't expect that. Awesome. Well done, guys.
Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor Refantasio. And the Game Award goes to Metaphor Refantasio. Congratulations.
I mean, well, yeah, of course. Well, was there any choice here? I mean, as much as I love Dragon's Dogma 2, it was a heavily flawed game, and possibly even lesser than the original one, especially the Dark Arisen version. We got Elden Ring Shadows of the Erd Tree, which is a fucking DLC and shouldn't be here. Final Fantasy Rebirth, which is a goddamn reimagining of an old-ass game, and, well, I don't know anything about Like a Dragon, but Metaphor was honestly the only option here. There was no other option. It was the only option here. If it hadn't have won this, I would have been really mad. Like, even if Dragon's Dogma 2 had won, I'd be like, wait, what the fuck? What drunk-ass, stoned out of his brain motherfucker voted for that?
Metaphor. Refantasio.
Hell to the fuck yes. I mean, was there any other option? The only game that could have possibly beaten Metaphor Refantasio when it comes to narrative is if, I don't know, they ported fucking Planescape Torment up there or something. That was... It had to have won that. It needed to win that. It was some of the best writing in video game history. So goddamn good. If it hadn't have won that, I would have been mad, man. Fucking mad. Really, really happy it won that. Oh, shit! Hey, Sven!
And
is
the
it
game of the
Baldur's Gate
year
3?
is...
Baldur's Gate 3, yeah?
Astrobot!
Really? Like, really? Okay, Astrobot won a lot, man. Astrobot won so much. It must have won like 5 or 6 fucking awards. I've heard it's good, but is it really that good? Huh. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, this year's Game Awards, I am so incredibly underwhelmed that I have like no whelm in my bloodstream. Zero whelm. Like, absolutely zero whelm. It was so bad this year that they had to pull from a prior year's, like, successful game and bank on a DLC to fulfill the numbers. This year was so shite that an indie COD game and a fucking robot mascot from PlayStation won all the awards. Oh, it was a bad year. But you know what? I've enjoyed the games I've been playing, and I always enjoy making these videos. So until next year, bye for now. Hope you've enjoyed yet again. Hopefully next year is a little bit more condensed than this, because fuck.